Hello. Hope you're all doing fine in this afternoon. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our vision of what could be the intersection between natural and artificial. This is a little bit of the vision that we have been developing lately in the studio. And mainly I'm going to show you a project that we did recently in Helsinki. Is let's say, the result of a competition we just did. I'm just going to walk you through the story of this project, and we'll see if this, let's say, creates some interesting thoughts afterwards for discussion. Before I do so, I just want to tell you a little bit about our company and our whole ecosystem. We're an innovation company based in Turin, so we're just an hour away from Milan. But we're also based in New York, where we have a small team that works in our projects in the Americas, and we also have an office in London that follows Carlo Ratti, as you might know from our name, as a public intellectual, as we like to call. He, as you might know, is a teacher also at MIT, and this is important because we're involved in a lot of projects that have to do with smart city and smart mobility issues in Amsterdam and in Singapore, as well as, of course, in Boston. And another thing that it's interesting to see from this is that we have created an ecosystem of startups that come both from the US and from Italy, doing things as different as micromobility. So some of the scooters that you might see around the world might come from one of our factories. Or if you've ever gone into a Royal Caribbean cruise, you might have had a drink from one of our robotic bartenders. So this is just to give you an idea of the kind of things that we do, and just to tell you that we're not just passionate about architecture, but as we like to say, we're more passionate about innovation. And I think we're proud to say that we're the only design firm that has won 3 times the Time Magazine Best Invention of the Year award. And this is because the big thing that we like to put forward is an out-of-the-box thinking and not only design. We work also transcalarly, so we work from service design all the way to urban design. And I think the project that I would like to present today is a showcase of all these kind of things put together. The project is called The Hot Heart, and in order to explain this project better, I think I will tell you a little bit of the story that went behind it and how it came to be. This might have started in 2019 or in early 2020. The city of Helsinki put out an X Prize kind of challenge. I don't know if you know how it works, but basically a city puts out a large amount of money in order to finance a project through innovative ideas. The idea here was to decarbonize the heating system of Helsinki. Helsinki has a particularity, as my colleague here that presented before can corroborate. It's one of the cities that has one of the most extensive cities of district heating. So it means that all the heating is centralized, which makes it easier to apply any further solution. But it also has a big problem. Most of the heating system in Helsinki is fueled by coal. So the idea of the city is to find a solution to decarbonize the heating system from here onwards. I'm just going to tell you that we participated in the competition. I'm going to show you what we did, and then I'm going to tell you what was the result in the end about this whole process. What happens with energy? We know that the big problem that we have nowadays, it's not related to energy generation. We can see that in places like Scotland, for example, we have almost all energy generated by wind nowadays, so almost all energy is renewable. Here in Italy, we have a very high percentage of hydroelectric, so we know that this is working, but we also know that we cannot control how this works. We cannot control natural elements. We have, for example, peaks in wind energy generation in which the energy price goes negative. And this is something that we can take an action about. And the other thing that we have seen is that the prices of energy have been more or less stable. So this means that even if you're generating energy in a sustainable way, we are not able to take advantage of this fact. What happens with this? We think that the key in this is storage, and storage can be done in many different ways. Nowadays, we see a lot of discussions, for example, on having all the electric cars working as mobile storage. But what we think is that we cannot depend only on batteries for doing the storage. And we thought that in this case, we could store energy or all the excess of energy that was being produced in the area around Helsinki in hot water. This is like the whole basis of our proposal. We thought that in order to decarbonize the heating system of Helsinki, we could store warm water in the Bay of Helsinki. So this is where the architectural concept comes in. We did a project for a set of basins set floating in the Bay of Helsinki, where we can have hot water that takes all this peak generation of energy that happens in renewable energy and keeps it for when we need it the most. If we try to apply this to heating, we can use all the warm water that we're transforming in this storage and later circulate it in the heating system of the city. So we can also decentralize a little bit the heat production for the heating system by having local small reheating facilities in the neighborhoods that will help us redistribute the heat again. This is a little bit how we think that the energy system will work. As you can see, we have all the energy generated by wind, by solar, by thermal. The thing is that nowadays, we don't know what the energy mix will be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. So we cannot bet only on decarbonizing the system by betting only on solar or only on wind power. We have to bet on being able to store all the excess energy produced by these systems to later redistribute it into the city. What is more, if this is not redistributed as heat afterwards, we can always retransform the heat that is generated in here into power back again and redistribute it in the grid. There is a second thing that we thought about this, and it's that when we're generating a project, a large piece of infrastructure that is helping what we call here power equalization, so that is shaving all the peaks in energy creation, we can do an extra thing for the city. So this is not only something that is useful for citizens when they're, let's say, in winter in need of heat or in need of heating, but this is also useful as a large icon destination or iconic destination created for the city. So we thought that we could use a little bit of the heat that we're storing into these reservoirs and start transforming it into public space that will later be used by the city. We thought this is just, I'm going to go quickly through this, but this is a little bit about how we thought about locating in. We did an analysis about where existing infrastructure is already there, where the depth of the water is already working well to locate the reservoirs. And we thought that we could have one of two options. If you're working in the deep sea, we can have a big floating reservoir. These are 225 meter in diameter containers filled with warm water that we can have either floating or anchored into the seabed. This is something that will go later on into, let's say, environmental analysis, because we know that anchoring the thing into the seabed might cause some problems. So this is something that we will define later on the project. But the important thing about this is that once we create a system of reservoirs that is all connected one to another, the initial design calculated for 10 of these reservoirs, as you can see, we can start creating additional functions that are very interesting. So as you see, what we did in this project was creating in the 3 points and in the center a set of services that were additional to just the infrastructure function. We know, and this, again, I talked to the Finnish person to correct me, but we know that in Finland, a way of, let's say, meditating is going to the forest. We thought that since the forest that we have in Finland is already there, we could bring a type of forest that is not here yet. And using the heat that we're storing in here, or using a small portion of it, we could create, we could replicate some of the tropical forests that we have around the world. So our proposal here is to have, for example, the Amazon forest, the Central American forest, or the, let's say, the Congo rainforest, replicated into this area, along with some other services that could be, for example, public pools, a sauna, so on and so forth. This is a little bit how it would look. So our idea is that these dome cover structures are the ones that host the public functions, while in the other remaining reservoirs we can take advantage and, for example, have solar panels that can collect energy in the sunny days of Helsinki. We know that that may not be that many, but we still think that this is a good way of continuing to look towards this decarbonization that we've been aiming for. This is a little bit, I'm going to show you how it looks like. And inside, we think that we can create some of this kind of landscapes with all the forest and with all the different functions in there. These might be, again, a little bit too close for the standards that you see normally in a public pool. Nowadays, especially after all the COVID situation, but we look forward into a space in which the public go to have fun, and it becomes a sort of destination for everyone around. In here, I'm just going to show you a little bit of a fly-through of how the project might look like. And the general thing that I want to, let's say, to communicate about the idea of this project is that this aims to become a key attraction for the city. So what we see in the future is that if you're making such an investment for a public infrastructure and you're making, let's say, a statement into decarbonizing your energy generation, or in this case, the heating system, the best thing that you can do is also create it into, or aim to create a destination that not only the citizens can use, but also tourists and people coming from other places can appreciate. So in the end, it's not only about creating this that is the hot heart. In the end, we think that this can become what we call the Helsinki method into decarbonizing energy systems. This is just a little bit of let's say, the last images that we created. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit of how it went. So what happened with the energy challenge? This was not an easy competition. We had 252 teams, or 251 teams to compete against, all from different countries. This was all from the largest energy groups around the world, some of the nuclear generation companies that were working, for example, in Asia, so on and so forth. I'm not sure how many of these were architects like us, but there were for sure quite a bit of competition. Out of those 10 finalists were selected. We were one of those 10 finalists, so we're quite happy to say that the city appreciated this kind of approach and said that they wanted to see a little bit more. We moved on into a co-creation phase, and after that, the winners were announced. What happened? We were one of the winners, but if I'm telling you that we were one of the winners, that means that we were not the only winner. So 4 other proposals were considered also as good as ours. unfortunately. So we're now in the process of discussing how this can be implemented, not only with our proposal, but also with the other winners that were very, very different, not only a proposal for, let's say, the energy generation, but they were specific into the grid or some other subjects. And we hope that perhaps, I don't think it's going to be next year, but in the couple next years, you will see the first hot heart floating around Helsinki. And why not floating around other cities? What we think is that this is not only something that can be very useful for cold climate, so all the Nordic cities, if you think about Oslo, Tallinn, so on and so forth, or places, as I was telling you before, in Scotland that already has a generation, an energy generation that is almost fully renewable. But also, for example, in places like Dubai or in places in front of the desert in Africa, where you would not connect this to the heating system, but you would store cold water in order to cool the city through radiation cooling instead of having ACs working all around. So this was a little bit of the story that I wanted to tell you and show you a little bit of a different project, but also to show you that a part of the work that we do as architects and as designers is rethinking how the systems can connect into each other, how we can have let's say, an impact into something that goes beyond just the buildings that we build. That is not that they're not important, but they're all connected to a wider network of things that we can also design. I'm gonna leave you with this. That is the video that we presented for the competition, and it's a sort of summary of all the projects and the idea. This is already, I mean, you already heard the whole story, so I'm not gonna bore you anymore with the conclusions, but we'll see, we'll hope to see the Helsinki model running around the world at some point soon. Thank you.